Welcome to the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar, and what a show we have lined up for you. Remember a few years ago, till I think fairly recently, the entire narrative was how Kirana stores were losing out to e-commerce players, even though the share of e-commerce in online grocery remains very, very small. But yet, the whole narrative and perception was, especially in urban centers, that the good old brick and mortar Kirana stores were losing out. Well, guess what? Kirana stores seem to be the hottest thing on the block. They have everyone wooing them, from Jio to Amazon, and of course today Flipkart. That's the first story on the show, the big Flipkart mega deal. We're going to look at this Kirana store revival and revolution. We're also going to look at what's happening with mutual fund returns. Now, mutual fund sahi hai has been the slogan for a while. Great for retail investors who don't have the time or know how to track the markets. But returns over the last 3 to 5 years have been dismal, to say the least. Has this cheesed off investors? Is that why we're seeing more and more newbies move to direct online trading? And is that a dangerous or a good trend? We're going to discuss that up ahead as well. But let's come to our first big story. So, big announcement by Flipkart today. It announced that it had acquired Walmart India's business and launched Flipkart Wholesale. With this, 28 of Walmart's best price stores will come under Flipkart's umbrella. What impact does this have for the Kirana business? Because remember, it's not just this one deal, it's a whole host of players now eyeing your neighborhood grocery store. They want to digitize them, they want to get them on their platform, they want to get customers to order groceries from them on apps. But before we move to that, let's get a sense from my colleague Chandra, who's been reporting the story. Chandra, what are Flipkart's plans?
This is a significant announcement because it underlines Flipkart's bet on the wholesale business in India. So as part of this, it has bought out 100% stake in Walmart India and the cash and carry business that they operate through the best price stores. They've also launched a dedicated vertical called Flipkart Wholesale, which will look at scaling their B2B business. Now, this is a focus area for Flipkart. It's something that it has been working on for the last 6 months. Flipkart veteran Adarsh Menon will head up this B2B business, and the current head of Walmart India will move on to a different role within Walmart. Now, this pits Flipkart directly against Jio, Udaan, which remember is also a unicorn, Amazon's wholesale business, as well as Metro Cash and Carry. So we have to wait and see how they can build on this business, if they can really make a big impact as far as the Kirana retail ecosystem is concerned by leveraging their technology. And they are going to launch this with the fashion and grocery category next month. Now remember, this announcement is coming days after Flipkart raised a fresh round of funding from Walmart. They raised over $1 billion from Walmart, valuing them at nearly $25 billion. So this move, in a sense, consolidates Flipkart's operations in India on the physical side as well as the e-commerce side, with them buying out the Walmart India business, and some of these Walmart employees will now be part of the Flipkart group, which remember is headed by Kalyan Krishnamurthy.
So thank you for that, Chandra. No question that Kirana stores is the next hottest thing. In fact, a big ET Now exclusive that my colleague Nayantara Rai reported earlier today was on how Amazon is in talks with Reliance Retail to join in on the Jio platforms and the retail side of it. So Amazon wants a pie of that Kirana business as well. It's anyway, making forays in that space. So how does this all add up? The question is this going to actually lead to a revolution in how Kirana stores function? To talk about this, I'm joined now by Hari Menon, co-founder and CEO of Big Basket. Abhishek Chauhan, associate partner and head at Red Sphere Consulting, speaks with me this evening. And I'm also joined by Harminder Sahni, founder and MD at Wazir Advisors. Welcome to all of you, and great to have you on the show. Harminder Sahni, let me start by getting your take. What do you see happening in this space right now? Do you think that old offline versus online conversation is now consigned to the dustbin, or is it very much still there?
Yeah, I think this online, offline, we have spoken about it many times, that it's all, I think, since online was so aggressively it was coming in, that's why it was the talk of the town. Otherwise, at the end of it, it's all about, it's a consumer business, how brands and merchandise has to be brought together and how it should reach in an efficient way to the consumer at the right price, right? So when organized retail was happening in 2005, 2010 period, when all big groups were investing, Walmart came in with RD, etc., Reliance came in. So that time the organized versus unorganized was the big talk. Then this online, offline became together. But I think in the last couple of years, you're absolutely right that there's no sense in talking of these two things separately. Some players have started from online, some have started from offline, but now it's very clear. COVID has only accelerated the pace. It's very clear that these two channels are going to merge. And even the unorganized, organized debate is over now. Like in your opening remarks, you were saying that now the Kiranas are the hot spot. But if you go back in time, 2006 and 7, when Walmart came in the wholesale business, the whole idea was to revolutionize the Kirana space. They wanted to be the biggest wholesaler, cash and carry model in the country to supply to millions of Kiranas. Metro came with the same plan. They have been succeeded in a limited way. Now with the technology changing, with the landscape changing, I hope so now there will be bigger successes coming from Reliance Jio wanting to go big time into it. We are hearing about it all the time. Something will change every time.
Yes.
But I think it's at the end of it, it's all simple movement which is happening is that the organization and the modernization of the distribution channels. That's what's going on because consumers are becoming demanding. There are more and more complexities in the logistics.
Okay.
There are more and more issues with how to reach the consumer. So I think that's what's happening, and technology is playing a big role in all of this.
Okay, so are we seeing an acceleration of technology? Is that what we're seeing? Hari Menon, what is your take? I mean, during the lockdown, it was the Kirana stores who had the opportunity to become sort of first end service providers because of the rules and regulations, etc. E-commerce platforms came on later on. Do you think that this hybrid model, especially with big players like Reliance Jio, Flipkart, etc., entering it, is going to revolutionize completely? Where does that leave, say, a big basket?
Yeah, I have a very very strong view on this. In terms of what I see happening. Firstly, I think this is the moment for the Kiranas, and actually, I think the moment has arrived. We were expecting this to happen, maybe a year back, but I think what you'll see now is basically the Kiranas getting more and more efficient. They're adopting technology a lot. And essentially becoming a lot more efficient. Let me just break the market up, into the way I see it. This is, as I've always said, an $800 billion market, plus minus, a bit. And in that, it's basically split up wherein 95% of the market is actually the Kirana stores, and 5% of the market is actually modern trade and online, right? Because the pie, the market itself is so large. The 5% is large, 95% is obviously very, very large and spread. Both these markets work very, very differently, right? They serve very different needs. When modern trade came, some 10, 15 years ago, when online came, everybody started talking about, how will the Kirana survive? And that's one thing that I've always stated globally, world over, that channel remains. And that channel will always be there because it serves a certain need and a specific need for consumers. People will continue going there. Not a single modern trade chain globally, not a single online chain globally has actually got 100% of the customer wallet share, right? They will always use Kiranas and the Kiranas will exist. Now, the key thing what's happening now is that 95% part of the business is actually going to get far more efficient with all players coming in and making sure that technology is provided. They'll start getting online. So tomorrow, instead of actually you having to call your neighborhood Kirana and getting him delivered home, you'll use WhatsApp. You will use technology. You'll go online and order. But fundamentally, I think the way those markets behave are very, very different. And I think both will coexist. Both will run. the Kirana side of the business will become far more efficient. People who adopt it will actually get a lot better. People who don't will vanish. And I think that's what will happen. But essentially, both will coexist.
No. So the question of both coexisting, I think, was never really raised. Both will coexist. It is about Kirana store sort of revolutionizing. I'm going to get Abhishek Chauhan to come in and put some perspective on it. Abhishek, COVID-19 and the coronavirus pandemic has sort of pressed the accelerator on change for a lot of businesses. Some businesses now are looking at whether they will survive or not. Many have had to adapt. For the Kirana stores, it's more like a sort of a mega rejig. It's like just downloading the newest software and changing its avatar completely.
Yes, so as Hari also said, and I think Harminder also touched upon, COVID actually proved that Kiranas are resilient and are there to stay. The way Kiranas have been operating and the consumers' trust on Kirana as a channel when, the online supply chains were actually disrupted has gone significantly high. Driven by that, Kiranas have all of a sudden become the focal point. So nowhere, of course, anyone in the Indian economy was discounting the power of Kirana channel earlier on as well. But having said that, I think post-COVID, Kiranas have become the focal point. And, as the convergence is happening, as Hari was saying, that, while both will coexist, but we at Redseer, what we believe is, just to add on to that B2B2C model is something which will kind of take the plunge going forward. So it's no more B2B and B2C, existing in separate spaces. It is B2B2C. In fact, we conducted a great study covering, number of Kirana stores across the country. We spoke to almost about 1,000 Kiranas, and what we realized was that driven by this movement, Kirana's propensity to adopt digital channels has also gone very, very high, right? So earlier, while, there were a lot of players on this side, including Big Basket, you have Jumbo Tails, Udan, ShopX, some of these players who were anyways working with Kiranas. Having said that, after COVID, the non-using Kirana bit, the willingness there to go for digital platforms has gone very, very high. Pre-COVID, while it was less than 10%, basis one of the surveys that we did recently, the willingness has gone as high as 60% to work with digital platforms. So overall, I would agree that, COVID has actually, brought them to the focal point. They were anyways a strong channel. Their resilience actually got proven post-COVID, and they are going to stay for a long term. It's going to be a convergence, and B2B2C is going to be the way forward.
Abhishek, I just want to ask you a bit more about how widespread you think this is. I mean, you said there were about 1,000 respondents in your survey. Were these outside your 6 metros? Because we tend to look at the world view a bit from the prism of, your top metros, urban audiences, etc. The reality of the Kirana stores is much, much wider. Do you think that we're sort of over amplifying this move to technology, or is it coming for sure backed by mega players?
So certainly, I think, so when we spoke to the Kirana's player, just to answer the first part of your question, we actually spoke to what, a significant amount of our sample belong to Bharat. We call it as Bharat, which includes your tier 2 plus cities, right? And essentially, I mean, if you look at the overall Kirana ecosystem, you are absolutely correct. I mean, as per our estimates, there are about, if you include class B Kiranas as well, which are small shops, less than 200 square feet, there are about 13 million Kiranas in the country today. 80% of them are actually in Bharat, right? So your point is absolutely correct that, whether technology is actually reaching there. Now, you have to look at the different models coming in together. You have the fintech models, the payment solution providers approaching Kiranas. You have the EB2B platforms coming in, with Reliance Jio coming in a big way. I think the story is predominantly going to be about Bharat, right? Despite all this convergence happening, it's only about 25% of the kiranas today who are using some sort of digital solution. Having said that, good part is that the demographic which is even driving the kirana store today, the owner of the kirana stores is becoming increasingly digitally mature. Most likely he or she is using, and it's a he in this case, unfortunately, but it's a digitally mature, the digital maturity of the kirana owner is also increasing. Somewhere they have also started to order, stuff for their personal consumption online. So all that is actually leading to a change in their mindset in Bharat also to adopt more and more digital solutions. And with Reliance coming in, the traction actually, a lot of people ask me this question that is it a competitive threat? The way I see it, I think it's very good for the overall ecosystem because, out of 13 million, if 25% are only digitally penetrated, there is still significant headroom for growth for multiple people to target the remaining 75%. And with Reliance coming in, the awareness of this channel is actually going to go up in Bharat, which means that Kiranas will not only work with Reliance, but with also other players as and where they keep on knowing about it. So it's good. Of course, I think your point
Okay.
is correct that it's metro and urban, but I think
So
Bharat is going to be the next story.
okay, so when Bharat is the next story, urban and metro is already maturing very quickly, and you have three jumbo sort of players eyeing the pie. Hari Menon, explain to us what will be your differentiating factor. What kind of innovation will players like Big Basket bring in?
Actually, that's the point I was making, a little earlier, is that the two markets, they serve very, very different, needs of the customer, right? A Kirana, carries, a certain range, right? A certain assortment. Big Basket will be the player that carries the larger assortment. So the needs of people who are looking for larger assortments, needs of people who are looking at monthly baskets, larger baskets, people who are looking at getting newer and newer products, when they come, is what this channel serves, and that is what I was talking about a little earlier. Is that the coexistence was, I know that we know that they're going to coexist, but the markets, the type of needs they serve have been always very different. Kirana has always served the top-up need, the immediate need. It's not going to serve the monthly need. It's not going to serve the 40,000 SKU need, because then they have to completely transform themselves, even physically, right? In terms of infrastructure, create larger stores. That's not what's happening. All that's happening is their current formats are going to become far more efficient. They will get a lot more technology. They will understand inventory very well. And, thanks to GST, which came in, now they're a lot more open to actually, getting technology in, mapping, their inventory, getting POS systems in, getting payment systems in. So all that it will do is that it will make them more efficient. But I don't think it can ever replace what the other, 5% of the market does, which is modern trade and online players, because the need that a consumer gets served there is very different from what they get served from in Kirana stores.
Harminder, you agree with that there will be a distinction, and is that 5% or even that organized sort of grocery store basket going to consolidate with major players now coming into the picture? How do you see this panning out?
One of the 2 points, when we looked at, let's say, the first ever supermarket, when it's in a way visualized it for Reliance in 2005, and I was advising them. At that point of time, when we looked at it, we said that Reliance Supermart or Reliance Mart is going to consolidate 11 or 12 different kind of retailers into one, right? Because if you go to any market, Kirana is only the FMCG and grains, etc. Now for breads and eggs, you go elsewhere. For chicken and mutton, actually in city like Delhi, you'll go to mutton separately, chicken is a separate shop, fish is another one, right? Fruits is separate, vegetable is being sold separately. Certain fruits are sold separately from other fruits. So there were 11 different retailers were getting merged into a supermarket. So I think it's very clear the modern retail is consolidating many small retailers into one. But separately, there's 11 or 12 retailers, they are serving the market. So they have all those 40,000 SKUs as well. So while on one single platform you can find one, but for consumer, those 40,000 are available anyway, regardless. They are available. So it's a consumer choice who wants to deal with what. So it's a different consumer rather than a different consumer need, which I believe is letting both the, let's say, the formats thrive, do that. Now, coming to this part, these three large people coming in, and that's what your story is. But I earlier also said it, Metro and Walmart, they have been trying to revolutionize, and Reliance also in some way, revolutionize some way this Kiranas. I find it very patronizing if you really think about it, that everybody is trying to help this poor Kirana guy by offering him digital thing, POS system, giving him how to manage his inventory, all of it. The gentleman has been managing it pretty well, and he's been adopting technology without anybody's help, or even if five people have come in to offer help, he has picked up one which he thought was the most efficient for him. So whether it was the Paytm or before that, whether it was ICICI guy trying to put card swapping machine, or now it's WhatsApp which is available for free. So he has picked and chosen at any point of time the technology which works best for him. He brought in a refrigerator, he brought in air conditioning, he brought in closed door, he brought in all of that. Right? He brought in printed receipts. He has done all of that. And the penetration of that is extremely high today. So I think he'll continue to do that. I think earlier also I've said it, that all this talk about large players wanting to help these people, we'll see. They're not wanting to help. They're wanting to acquire. They're wanting to control. They're wanting to run their businesses. And I have seen already in the...
Absolutely. No, they are eyeing the pie.
Exactly. So these people will figure it out. So saying that millions of retailers will surrender to one large player and they will sit at their counter and let their POS and the computer system will run the business. No, these are independent business people. They may not like to surrender. They want to run it. They will deal with 5 people. They will deal with 7 instead of dealing with 70 today. That can happen. Right? And that's consolidation. That's thing getting organized. That thing's getting simplified with GST and all this coming in, cold chains coming in. All of that is happening. Right? They will put in products in their store which they were earlier not putting in. Instead of 1,500 SKUs, given that fast replenishment, right? They'll be able to put maybe 4,000 in the same space. Or maybe they'll be offer rest of it on the screen. So all that is going to happen.
Yes.
But I think the control of this market is in the hands of Kirana. And we have seen it. Consumer wants availability. Consumer wants service. Consumer has no problem. I'd say saying that whether it's a clean store or whether it's a large store or whether it's a neighborhood store, whether it's a faraway store, consumers want product availability, all of that. And I think one more definite point I would like to make here is that in India, consumers haven't seen even 10% of the products which are being consumed in the modern world. You need physical stores, you need visits to physical stores to encourage consumers to buy stuff which they haven't seen.
I agree. I agree with you, and I think we have to. I take your point, and there has been no intention of any kind of condescension, if that's the impression which has gone out. In any case, this is a set of business people who have really survived and thrived and adapted to technology. I mean, even to customer needs. They have their pulse on the finger of what the customer wants. If you walk into a store and you ask for something, it's not there, there is a high likelihood that the person across the counter will write it down somewhere and make sure it's there for you next time. So, there has been a lot of adaptation that has gone forward. But Abhishek, I want to come to the question, and the point that has really been raised about how the paradigm may have shifted post lockdown. And I believe, Reds here has looked at that, others have looked at it as well, where customer confidence has also increased for Kirana stores. Do you think that old school sort of familiarity, confidence can now be melded with technology to put them at an advantage?
Yes, absolutely. I think somewhere, and just to add to what Harminder just said, and probably I will also agree with Hari on this part, that there is a bit of overlap. So while, there are different consumers which are being targeted by these channels, but there is also an overlap, right? So even if you look at an urban consumer today, while, modern retail might be serving the stock-up need, Kiranas mostly are still the reliable channel for the daily top-up needs. I mean, we can look at our examples as well, but somewhere I think for the daily essential top-up needs is the local Kirana, which is, right there. And somewhere you also rely on the credit that the Kirana also offers. You are so comfortable with the guy. This guy will just, send his boy inside the store. He already knows what your requirements are. Sometimes he will himself check with you, right? That, today should I be sending the breads and the eggs in the morning, right? So from that perspective, the kind of dependence that we already had on the Kirana as a channel for some of our needs. And to add to that, the kind of resilience the channel actually showed. In fact, if technology gets blended there, and that's already happening organically now, as you know, we just heard that, they are really smart people. Kiranas are probably one of the most operationally efficient channels that operate in the country today. I mean, if you look at the kind of sales and the 1500 SKUs per square feet that they are able to, deliver, the kind of fill rates that they are able to deliver, I think it's astonishing. But having said that, all Kiranas are actually trying to be smarter. They are adopting digital solutions. I mean, there are a lot of solutions around credit management, digital bookkeeping. Of course, I think there are a lot of value-added services, which was more of a latent need, which was around inventory management, etc. Which now I think they are realizing the importance on. I think we already heard that GST has been a critical game changer, where we even asked them that do you help with GST? And somewhere I think they are relying on digital platforms to even help them with how to file GST, right? So certainly I think if technology gets blended in an effective way, we will be able to unleash the actual power of Kirana, right, in this market.
No, absolutely. Unleashing the power of Kirana and melding it and merging it with the kind of technology play which is coming to the fore is really going to be one interesting story to watch unfold over the days to come. I want to thank all of you for joining us and helping us break down this mega trend that's emerging.
Thank you.